Hello, everybody. It's very late in the night. It's 10:56 p.m. where I live, and we just wanted to really give you a quick update on the release of Snyder Cut and a big picture about it, and also what the future of that is. Before I go into all of that, though, I want to just read um, a psalm, and we're looking at Psalms. Psalms 86. It says, "Bow down your ear, O Lord, hear me, for I am poor and needy. Preserve my soul, for I am holy. O you, my God, save your servant that trusts in you." I think this is a really good song for a number of different reasons and appropriate to this situation in some ways. But if you guys are not on Twitter, uh, that's okay. I haven't been on Facebook for a little while as well. I do need to contact some people on Facebook, but this is a psalm speaking about us, particularly. The focus is on us. And in this case, it's on our desire to be listened to. And we have a request here. So it's about preservation and it's about salvation. Um, I think this is very interesting because when you recognize you need to be preserved, you need to be saved, that's a great thing, especially if you realize that you're going in a downward spiral of some kind. And so it's nice to be able to realize that and realize you need help and throw out the line. Hopefully, you throw it out to the right people who can help you. And a lot of times, we're not aware of this, that we're drifting out of being good and we're actually going down the path of evil and destructiveness. But it's always great when we can be honest with ourselves and realize that that's where we're going, and so be able to avert it. And I have to say, when I was somewhat negative, and just focusing on negative things and things I hated, I was going down that slippery slope. So I advise you guys not to go down that slippery slope that I did. And so I asked goodness or God to deliver me from that. And many of you have different things you probably want to be delivered from, shortcomings, many things, situations, many things. And I suggest that at least as you're in the middle of doing something, always try to reflect on what exactly you're doing. Don't try to rationalize it. Reflect and look for the truth of what you're doing. And that will help you to decide whether to go forward with it or to arrest, turn back from it and go the opposite direction, right? Okay, so let's get into what we're going to talk about here, which is the bigger picture that I want to show you guys right now. All right, there we go. So first and foremost, let me go to the poll that we had. So this was the poll that was taken. Maybe it's a little too small, so I'll blow it up a little bit. This was the poll, the results of the poll from the poll that was conducted up to today. Which is the release of Snyder Cut poll. And of that poll, 2,086 votes, 93% of the poll, which is about 1% of the JL movie followers. And just in case you don't know what that is, the Justice League movie followers we're talking about are literally the people who follow the Justice League movie. So a certain percentage of that, a little bit over 1% of that, actually wanted the Snyder Cut. And about 0.08% of that didn't have a problem with the theatrical cut and didn't need a Snyder Cut. All right. So we had 2,243 votes, which is a little bit over 1%. It's about almost 1.1%. Voted for the voted Okay, it's a small percentage. So that the poll was pretty small. And another thing about the poll was it's pretty biased because most of the people that I would have been going to vote on the poll would have been people who wanted the Snyder Cut anyway. And even though I tried to get it broader, and I had a lot of other people I contacted, about 500 extra people I contacted that they were outside of, I didn't know if they were supporting Snyder Cut or not, which I took from actually the people following the Justice League movie. It's still at the same time, okay, power just dipped, so I may lose the internet here, guys, or I may not be online right now. I don't know. But anyway, so it's a pretty biased poll, and that's the thing that I didn't really want to. But more importantly, this poll gives us some statistics and figures, and it gives us a certain number of votes. Okay. Now I talked about this in the last video, and by the way, people who are in Australia and Sri Lanka, tomorrow's your day to mail, to post your letters to the Burbank studio of Warner Brothers to Walter Hamada. So get your stuff ready. But besides that, the important thing here is these numbers still show that there is interest in it, and there's a high interest in it. Now, that doesn't mean that this is something that is a scientific, purely scientific poll of a sample size or anything like that. It's not like that, but it is something that shows some interest. And this is only the beginning of future polls we hope to share in the future. Now, let me just see here if I can come out of this for a second. And I want to show you something. So when it comes to people who support the Snyder Cut, there are, as you can see here, close to 200,000, 179,000 almost, people who have signed up for the director's cut of Justice League, or the Snyder Cut as we call it. That's a significant amount of people on social media, okay? And through change.org, they signed up. So what we got, so there's a couple of things I want to show you here. So if I can go back for a second, maybe I can, maybe I can't. Yes, if I go back for a second here, this number doesn't mean that all those people there were from Twitter, but if that amount of votes or more happened, let's say we had 205K votes, that would be much more reflective of exactly what's going on. So if I had, for instance, almost 100 times what I got here, which is 2.2K votes, if I can get, 100 times that, that would be cool, because that would show, it would be reflective of true figures, true percentages of how many people would actually want the Snyder Cut. Now, the sample size doesn't have to be that big. You can just take a random sample size that, just a random sample size. You just start randomly picking people. Now, the problem with this poll was it was limited to 7 days. And, that's something. But I'm going to run another poll. And this next poll that I'm going to be doing, I want people to know about it first, a wide section of people to know about it first before I run the poll, so that it can be much more scientific, that you get a true reflection of people who are Snyder Cut fans or not, or Snyder fans, period, or just a wide berth of people, so that whenever the numbers actually come through, they're actually truly reflective of a wide girth of people. So it'll be much more scientific. And so once you have a bigger poll of us, obviously that can happen. Now, obviously, we know that a number of people were interested in the Justice League movie. I myself, of course, liked this and was following this. Okay, I was following the Justice League movie on Twitter. So there was a bunch of people who followed Justice League on Twitter. And it would have been nice if I could get to all of those people. But a comparable number of people in a poll would really say something. So what I'm going to do is, the strategy is to have you guys go out there and pretty much, whether it's on Twitter or on other parts of social media, speak about the next poll I will be giving out. And what you can do is you can either use this video or some other video, or you can just use the data that I have on my Twitter And you can share this data from a preliminary poll, which is this preliminary poll here, and you can take that data and you can show them some preliminary results, and that can help people to want to go and vote again, whether it's to change the results or whatever. So this is just the beginning of what we want to do. And so talking about the future now, there's a number of different things going on in the pipeline of the future. So we had this, which is this little poll that's there, but we also have some other good things that are there, right? We have the Snyder Cut, where we have some actual numbers of people who have signed a petition. Now, all of these are still smaller numbers than are necessary for Warner Bros. Really to strike you. Really, if you want Warner Bros. To jump to you, you got to have bigger numbers, right? But nonetheless, they're a pretty sizable chunk of numbers that people have signed that petition. It'd be nice if it can get a lot bigger. Now, here's what's happening moving forward. So we have the snail mail campaign that's going on with Fiona Zhang, who is kind of leading that. We have this director's cut, which is still being done. It's still going on. And that's led by Roberto Mata. And that has to do with change.org. And then I just ran a small poll. It's still not a big enough poll to really make a big deal about it. But it's being run on Twitter, and I'm going to run it again. Now, here's the thing. The more you keep on, and there's another guy who's actually Sam the something. I keep on forgetting his name on Twitter. He was running another poll. I think he has like 500 votes, or maybe 1,000 by now. But the point anyway is this, that the more polls, the more stuff that's run, and the bigger the numbers we can get. Because there's two things. Social media, yes, you don't know if there are bots in there. You don't know if it's somebody with multiple accounts doing things. So that's the thing with social media. The thing about what we're doing with snail mail is it can help you to realize that these are individuals, and then snail mail, they can quantify that if they want to as well, and see how many people send things by snail mail. Snail mail is kind of hit or miss in terms of times, depending on when you send your stuff. So it's going to be still a little bit patchy. Now, how many people are sending their snail mail is another thing too, and how many people have gotten the message that this is a snail mail campaign we're doing, and if you want to support the Snyder Cut and you want to get a Snyder Cut, then you should send your snail mail in. And there's some really nice snail mail out there. Maybe I'll highlight that in another video. But here, what's important for people to understand is that we already have some sort of quantification, some sort of quantified information. So what you have to do now, as active Snyder Cut or DCEU fans or people who want to see the Snyder Cut happen, is what you have to do is go up on social media and share each of these things, each of these bits and pieces of information, especially to as many people as possible. So your job is simply to try and circulate this thing to as many places as possible. You have YouTube, you have Twitter, Instagram, you have Facebook, and the goal is to use these different things. So we have the petition on change.org. We have the snail mail campaign. We have polls that will be done by different people. And once I find those people, I will showcase them to you guys. So there are these different avenues we can use, and we gather data. And we just keep on gathering data for Warner Bros. Obviously, my poll didn't get to as many people. It's just kind of the immediate vocal people in the Snyder Cut area and a few other extra people that I randomly got the poll to. I got some key people as well, but they didn't act on it. So at the end of the day, we can only do so much, but it's always good to do something instead of do nothing. Now, if you guys have any other advice for me, please do. I would love to be able to get a little brainstorm put together on how to do these polls so that they get to much more people. But I think one of the key things that we could do and coordinate is where everybody puts the poll, and it doesn't have to be me that starts the poll, just that everybody puts their poll, they pin it up on Twitter, for example. And if you have a lot of followers, one key person who has a lot of followers that pins up their poll on the top of Twitter, it makes a big difference. People don't go and see Twitter all during the week. They usually use the weekend to see Twitter and stuff. So most of the times, people really will be invested in social media or internet on a weekend. So we can coordinate something in social media such that if it's Twitter or it's Facebook or it's Instagram or it's I don't know, or it's YouTube, we can have this thing organized so that as many people as possible know that the event is beginning at a certain time and it's ending at a certain time. So, like for instance, if I tell you guys in advance, we're going to have this poll for the Snyder Cut, and it's going to start Wednesday, you know, this week Wednesday. Now you can engineer and get a lot of people's attention about it, stir up their attention for the poll, and so when the poll actually starts, there's all these people already waiting for the poll to happen. And it's not just Snyder Cut fans or the people who are mostly vocal in the Snyder Cut movement, but also people who also empathize or people who don't. I don't care if you want this cut or you don't want the cut. I just want you to vote so I can get a good picture and a good number of people. Take, for instance, now this change.org cut that they're pushing for here. These numbers are big. They're big. They're good numbers, but they're not great numbers. They're not reflective of how many fans are there. And let me give you an example. If Warner Brothers was to see 5 million of these signatures in there, 5 million, they'd immediately act. Because 5 million, you go release any kind of home release, whether it's digital. Digital is the basic, it's the baseline. So you're starting at $20 to get a digital copy. So think about that. $20 by 5 million. That's 100 million, right? That's $100 million baseline. And they have only done that with, I think it's 2 movies they've done that with. And that is Wonder Woman, I think, has made $100 million in home box office, and Man of Steel. So if you're starting with a baseline of $100 million, go figure, right? That's something you just don't pass up. So Warner Brothers, you know, if they could get that to happen, that would be great for them, because now that takes Justice League's total to $750 something million, which is above Suicide Squad. They'd go for that any day, any time, right? Actually, no, I'm wrong. When you add, sorry, my bad. It's 50 million plus 600 something. That's 700 million. It would get to $800 million after all is said and done. That's fantastic. Wonder Woman got to $921 million because its home box office is close to $100 million. So it has made it very, very good. That standalone movie did very, very well when everything's said and done. And then all the Merc and everything's calibrated. It did well. Justice League did well. Not Justice League. Batman v Superman did very well. $950 million after everything's said and done. Man of Steel cracked. It would have cracked somewhere around 790 something million when you include box office, home box office, with what it made otherwise. You know, so all of these movies did well. Suicide Squad did exceptionally well. It made 745 million theatrically, and then close to 90 something million. So that means it made somewhere around in the vicinity of 800 and something million dollars. So if Justice League can make anything around that, that's a win for Warner Brothers. That means if they put out the Snyder Cut and baseline they make 100 million, they more than good. You know, they're more than, they cleared everything. So what I'm saying is that, you know, that's the kind of numbers Warner Brothers is looking for. 5 million signed signatures gets an immediate response from Warner Brothers. A poll where you poll, and the polling shows that you have more votes, say, for instance, than the actual followers. And that percentage of votes is at least, you know, let's say it's 70% even. 70%, right? 70% of it doesn't matter. People show interest. It means all these people voted for and against. So even if you had 30% here and 70% there, that's a done deal. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of figures that Warner Brothers wants to see. That's the kind of thing that will make them spring into action immediately. These figures won't at present. These figures show that there are proactive people, and probably there are a lot more people who would support the Snyder Cut, but So far, there is no facts to show that, no data. So if you want that, this is why we need to push and push very hard. If you really want Warner Bros. To jump and hop and skip and actually just say, you know what, we forget everything, then you have to give them the indication of how many. It's not so much how accurate your poll is as the quantity of people. So that's why we need to push for this petition to continue to be signed, and more people to come and sign this petition. There are people signing the petition on a regular basis, but still more of a faucet trickle. It's not blowing past 200,000. You know, they need to get somewhere. You know, they need to get to 500,000, maybe 1 million. You know, really pour it on, and that seems to be trickling to a halt right now. So these are some of the things you have to pay attention to. I believe, at least, you have to pay attention to if you really want the Snyder Cut to really go through as planned. Okay, so let me come out of this. Okay. All right, I know it's kind of late in the night. I know some of you guys are watching my data. Dave Ethan, what's up, man? Damien Anton Vincent, good night, Anson. Good night to you, Damien. I know it's pretty late in the night. That's why I'm not talking so loudly. Dave Ethan, how you doing, bro? Yes. So I'm just, again, trying to let you guys know the updates and the bigger picture, and how we can, each of us, play a role in positively, getting more eyes on and attention to the Snyder Cut movement and the Snyder Cut petition by actually showing Warner Bros. Actual figures. So the poll that I did was to show some figures, and this is the initial figures. They probably will fall lower as we get more and more people to participate in these polls. It's very important to get as many people as possible to participate in the polls, no matter what their background is. Just get a lot of people to participate in the poll. The polls will quantitate something. The letters will as well. It's a call to action that allows, again, Warner Bros. To see that the actual people who are actually interested in the Snyder Cut. There are on Twitter. I noticed there's a similar set of people over and over tweeting. And that's cool and everything, but we need much more numbers. We need much more people. And what I found out is when I went into, for example, let me just go back to the screen share here so you guys can understand what I'm talking about. Let me go back to screen share. When I actually went, hold on a second. So when I actually went to this site here, Justice League, and I started to go through the followers, when I clicked on this section here and I went through all the followers and I started identifying people, it's interesting because some of the followers and people started to talk back to me, and some of them didn't realize there was a Snyder Cut movement going on and they wanted to support other people. Did not agree with that at all, and they vocalized that, and it was okay. I was like, hey man, all I want you to do is vote. So it's not like I'm telling you how to vote. I don't care. I just am interested in you voting. If you don't think there should be a Snyder Cut, no problem. Just make sure after you vote, you retweet it so that other people can see and let them share their opinion. Because quite frankly, I want the Snyder Cut, yes, but it doesn't mean that I want to see what the bigger picture is as well as Warner Brothers would. So it's just be honest. If you don't want it, no problem. Choose the theatrical cut. Nobody will plug you for it. And what we want to see is when we get these massive numbers, when we get the picture enlarged, what are we actually looking at? So I invite everybody to vote. And I want this to be sort of a precursor to the midterm elections where people will also be voting. I want people to feel free to vote. Vote what you believe. Don't bother about other people's opinions. And I on the voting thing that I was doing here, on the voting post or the poll, some people were trying to attack other people for voting a certain way and expressing themselves. And I was like, no, don't do that. That's what they want to do. Once they retweet the poll, fine. I don't really care. It's like, look, this is about figures right now. We want to see where people are at. And so that's what I want you guys to do. And so I see some people here like Dave Ethan and Leroy Kong, a lot of people. I just wish you guys would retweet these things on Twitter, because I'm going to come up with another poll. Yes, but I don't have to be the person to do the polls. You guys can go ahead and do polls of your own. And I will also vote on your polls and stuff. The more active you guys are, the more proactive you guys are getting polls out there, great. Like, that could start a movement of polling. And once people are polling, more people's attention will be to it. So it's like, we just want people to get their attention on this Snyder Cut thing and then put their piece in there. Let them say what they want to say, because this has been a while now. There's been a push for the Snyder Cut, but there's never been any sort of, aside from the petition that came out, there hasn't been any sort of scientific sort of, way of approaching things, methodology, until Fiona Zhang talked about the snail mail, which is a great idea, by the way. Nobody else came up with anything else. So you guys have to think about ways in which to get Warner Brothers' attention through numbers. And the petition is a great way, and you guys need to push the petition. I don't agree with everything that the petition says and claims, but there's a lot I agree with now. At the same time, that's not the point. The point is, get as many names as possible to sign the petition, because the focus of the petition is to get a Snyder Cut. So that's what we're trying to do. And once the numbers match up, the numbers have to match up. So I'm giving you guys some goal figures to look at. When we're looking at releasing the Snyder Cut petition, we need at least 5 million people to sign that petition. Yes, I said again, 5 million people. You get 5 million people to sign that petition, or 5 million signatures, you're guaranteed that Warner Brothers will move on that. They'll move tomorrow. It's not enough to have social media buzzing about the Snyder Cut, or people talking about the Snyder Cut, or using the hashtag. We need numbers, guys. Okay? When it comes to polling, the very same thing. We need to get the attention of as many people as possible, which means you guys can retweet. There's going to be a poll released on the Snyder Cut. If you guys want to retweet my stuff, and you can put it to Wednesday, on Wednesday, there's going to be this poll. I want you guys to vote whether you want it or not. Vote on it, and then retweet the poll or pin the poll up on your post so more people can see. Whatever. That's what we need to do now. That's the move we have to make. So a lot of you guys retweeting my poll, which was good. I thank you guys. A lot of people actually reached the poll. I saw people coming to the poll because of you guys, and I thought that was really awesome as well. And retweeting the poll. We had a lot of people retweeting the poll. And this poll was, for me, on a small macro scale, very successful for me. But when it comes to looking at it in the bigger picture, that's what we're talking about right here, it's still not those kinds of numbers that will get Warner Brothers' attention. Now, it will get their attention in the sense that they'll realize there's a large amount of people that want the cut. You know what I'm saying? A big percentage of this poll. And if that's reflective of the wider demographic, which it is not, it's a biased poll. But if it was reflective of the wider demographic, then they'd have to move on that poll, right? The only way they're going to see that's reflective of the wider demographics is if we have much bigger numbers, which involve the wider demographic. And so once we get those numbers, we're going to be good. And so that's why we have to get I have to do these polls, if it's week after week, until they get big enough that we got that figure for Warner Brothers to say, yeah, we need to move on that, And in the meantime, we also need to support the snail mail, other polls that other people are doing, as well as, once it's dealing with the Snyder Cut, and also we have to ensure that the petition, more people sign that petition. And it's kind of weird because the petition's been around for a while, but we really need to advertise that petition. We need to push it everywhere and get bigger numbers, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot more people who would want the Snyder Cut than just close to 200,000. I'm pretty sure there's much more than that. But it's just that I think it hasn't gotten still in front of all of the people who necessarily need to see it. I also think that there's a sizable chunk of people, maybe about 25 to 30% of the people, who are cool with the theatrical cut and they don't want a Snyder Cut. I really think so. It may even be bigger numbers than that. So I think that one, when they see how many people want to see the Snyder Cut, it may change their mind, maybe open their mind to saying, well, why would all these people want this? So it's very important, I think, for all of you here to be able to validate this movement and validate what we're doing, and even for people to understand what we're doing, to really work on getting more people in front of not only the polls, but even educating them on why people want the Snyder Cut in simple ways. Release the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut movement is great for Twitter, but it only belongs to a certain demographic of people, and we have to expand beyond that demographic. It's cool to see hashtag Release the Snyder Cut on Twitter, but you may have to twin it with other things like other hashtags, and you may also have to not bully your way, but actually reason with people about it, and it's not enough to just reason with people. I think it's about getting it out there. So you have to get that, and you have to show figures. You have to show figures. You have to show data. You have to show information. This is what will persuade people when they start to see the figures, the data, the information. You have to come from a factual basis where people can actually see things. Like when I try to talk and I do these videos, as you guys know, I try to show you guys things and present my arguments with as much factual information as I possibly can. That way, when you show somebody something and you keep on showing them information, now they can actually, they can't dispute the certain information. Now they can dispute your interpretation of the information, but they can't dispute the information you show them. So that's the kind of thing that we need. Warner Brothers, when they see this demand for the the Snyder Cut, when they see that these figures, these numbers, they can't deny those numbers. Now they could still not put out the Snyder Cut. Of course, officially, it could still leak out. Instead of they putting it out officially, it could leak out. But at the end of the day, what's important is that you give them the hardcore figures, and then you can come to them with the hardcore figures. So what I'm going to do with this small little poll is I'm going to actually, again, I've already tagged Warner Brothers in it, but I'm going to send it back to them again. If you guys want to send this video to them, that's cool too. I'm sure they're aware of the situation, and because I tagged them into this poll, so they probably see the poll and everything. But nonetheless, the important thing is to get bigger figures, even if the polls are not purely scientific. To get bigger and bigger figures shows that there's interest in the subject matter. It's all about interest. So even the people who say, I don't want the Snyder Cut, they had enough interest to actually do a poll. You understand? And that's important, because even if somebody says they don't want a Snyder Cut, when the Snyder Cut comes out and everybody's giving it positive reviews and talking about it's great and everything, these same people who say they don't want the Snyder Cut will be curious to see the Snyder Cut. You see what I'm saying? And some of them will end up purchasing it because they're curious. Some of them will not be curious, but some of them will. So at the end of the day, or they may see it and then they may want it, right? After they've seen it, they might, oh, I think I want my own copy of that. You know what? I changed my mind, because people can change their mind. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's what's important is the volume of people, and that it can be viable. Once it's commercially viable for Warner Brothers to put out a Snyder Cut, they'll put it out. But you have to get them without a shadow of doubt that look at these numbers, Warner Brothers, look at these numbers. We've been talking about numbers to Warner Brothers, but we've never produced any numbers to Warner Brothers as fans. That's very important, because you see, they're going to be taking a risk putting out the Snyder Cut. And just imagine, they put out the Snyder Cut first week. Okay, they put it out, and people bash it. Though that's highly unlikely, let's just say it does. It's a risk. They put out this money for the Snyder Cut. They put it out. People bash it. And on top of that, now they're looking to bash Aquaman comes next. And they're going to bash the next movie. So there's this risk factor that they have to deal with. Now, if it comes out and people are praising it and they're like so angry or whatever, it still is not going to affect Aquaman, because Aquaman's a separate movie. And once Warner Brothers goes with James Wan's vision, and once it's all James Wan in there, and I'm pretty sure Aquaman, I don't think Aquaman is going to be what the trailers are showing. Now that I've calmed down and everything, I think that particular trailer of Aquaman, which by the way was viewed quite well, that particular trailer of Aquaman, I don't think is representative of what James Wan is going to do with Aquaman. From what I've been kind of garnering from people who have actually screened Aquaman and actually seen it, They've said that, it's got this dark, creepy vibe to it and certain things and blah, 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 blah. So I don't want to go into too much more about that in Aquaman, but it's possible, I don't know, that the next trailer for Aquaman could be like Predator's first official trailer. If you've seen Predator's first official trailer, it's really interesting. It kind of gives you that tension, that excitement. When you see the teaser or whatever it is for Predator, I just made me disengage from it because it was like a straight up comedy, and I was like, God no. So sometimes the way how they portray a trailer or the way how they do a trailer doesn't truly do justice to the actual movie. I'm hoping that's the case here, because I personally did not like the first Aquaman trailer. I really didn't. I didn't like it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it or love it. It was just didn't get my interest at all. And that's different. If you have actually a hate for something, that means you're at least interested in it to hate on it, right? That didn't happen. It was like, meh, right? So I'm saying all of this just to say that I think a Snyder Cut will come if Warner Bros. Can see that it's fiscally viable. And the only way that's going to happen is if you guys and we and people beyond us are interested enough to show that in some sort of fixed figure. Now we have a poll here, one poll, and this poll shows some figures. It's not a very accurate poll, but it still has figures. We have figures to show Warner Brothers. We have to show them more and more figures. We got this movement here, and there's some figures there again. They're not the figures that will push Warner Brothers to move just like that. They're not big enough, but they're figures. That's what you have to come to these companies with. You got to come to them with something. They're not going to move on your stuff just based on they're going to take 40 years, 50 years after everything's done and everything. Look at this. Warner Brothers moved on giving us the Donner cut, which is not a pure Donner cut, because one, a director was interested in putting it forward. Two, after all those years of the fans, because Superman Returns flopped at the box office. Okay? So if you think about it, after the supposedly Donner Superman 2, every Superman film after that flopped. And also including a Supergirl film that flopped. Okay? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 super Kryptonian films flopped. And that's what prompted them to put out the Donner cut, okay? Because the director was kind of interested in it. Fans have been asking for it for years, right? Now, let me point to you this. Let me show you this. So when it comes to Zack Snyder's director's cut, we have social media now, where social media can show them social media can show Warner Brothers without a scratch of a doubt that we got figures. So social media, now you have to approach different ways, but nonetheless, social media shows us that yes, we can respond and show Warner Brothers our purchasing power. So far, we haven't quite done that because this is still too small. Like I said, 5 million will definitely have them jumping. Okay, anything upwards from 5 million and upwards is going to definitely get Warner Bros. Tomorrow. They're gonna be working on the Snyder Cut. Okay. And don't get it wrong, somewhere in the background, they're thinking about it, all right? Even though they're progressing forward, they're thinking about it because they're thinking about the future of their franchise and how they're going to approach that, everything. They're thinking about it, I'm sure. But nonetheless, because they always come through, there's a couple things I want to say about Warner Brothers. And it's something I really appreciate about them. They do change direction a lot. And they're kind of fickle towards the fans and stuff, and they change their direction, they change their minds a lot. But one thing about them that I really appreciate is that they eventually satisfy their fans. Okay, take for instance, when you look at what happened with Batman v Superman, Zack Snyder got this extra thing that said, we'll give you the ultimate cut, so we could look forward to the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman. When Watchmen came out, okay, it wasn't what Zack Snyder wanted to do. We got a director's cut of Watchmen. That was what he wanted to do. That's what he wanted to put on the screen. Then we get the ultimate cut of Watchmen. And we got that too, right? at the end of the day, when you put all of that together, did Watchmen flop at the box office? I don't know. I'll have to go check and look at the numbers. But at the end of the day, if that helped Watchmen to make money, and so it didn't flop at the box office, awesome. So my point being this, that they know how much of course, they've come out of it and they're not flopped or anything right now. They've made some money off of it. But if they want to make more money off of Justice League, there's always this alternate cut or this Snyder cut that everybody wants, right? Everybody's talking about the Snyder cut. And they've been talking about Snyder cut for a while. It's a buzzword. So what I'm saying is, and it's still a buzzword on Twitter, which is good. It's trending quite well on Twitter. It's trending. I don't know if it's trending on YouTube, but it's trending on Twitter. So here's the thing I'm saying. It's still hot. People are going to still want the Snyder cut. They probably want it for many, many years to come. But the point is, Warner Brothers has to know, okay, let's see what's happening here. They're weighing if the Snyder cut will actually affect, and probably they're doing polls. You never know what they're doing. But they're going to look at, see if the Snyder cut is, first of all, one, if it's fiscally viable and if there's really enough people that want it, because there's a lot of loudmouths out here. They don't know. Then two, they're going in a particular direction. Would that affect their direction they're going in? These are two things they'll be looking at and seeing if it'll affect anything. And they're probably going to be doing their little surveys and polls or whatever they have to do to get feedback. Hopefully they do that. Now, I was concerned about which direction they're going in. I still am. But at the end of the day, if they can, again, look at the situation and we can show them as fans, this is fiscally viable. This should happen now. Not that it needs to happen now, but this should happen now. That's how we have to do it. We have to put the pressure on them to let them see the numbers. If the numbers are big, of course they can wait and see if they get bigger, right? That's a risk. Because like how they wanted to just kind of plan Cyborg and all these things and the New Gods, and they have this thing, all this stuff down the road. That's a risky maneuver because now you have to go through a number of movies to get down the road. You know what I'm saying? So it's better if you cover, and this is something else, they probably weighed this out as well, but it's something where you have to think about, is this the way we want to go? Do we want to push things back down the road? Every time they push something back down the road, in my opinion, it has gone bad. You look at Batman v Superman. They took an extra year. It was supposed to come out in 2015. They pushed it back to 2016. How did that work out for them? Right? It didn't work out too good. When you look at, they were working on the Justice League movie with Frank Miller. Not Frank Miller. What am I saying? George Miller. Right? That would have come out in 2000 and what would it have been? 2006, maybe? Whatever. They pushed it back with Zack Snyder to now, the present time. Now, I'm not going to say that Zack Snyder didn't do a great job on it, but the thing they put out didn't work out too well, right? My point being, they don't seem to have, in my opinion, this is my opinion, they don't seem to have a good history of pushing films back or trying to delay the telling of a story. So if I were them, I would trust in my director who's introducing characters a certain way. Because Zack introduced Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman a certain way, whether it's the ultimate cut or whatever cut you look at, she's been introduced in quite well, quite frankly. Didn't cut any of her scenes, thankfully. Because of that, it set up Wonder Woman, and it set her up very, very well. When you look at how the characters have been set up, I don't know how badly they've been tampered with, but I'm pretty sure they tampered with the Flash pretty bad, Aquaman pretty bad, and Cyborg pretty bad. A lot of their backstories, a lot of it was taken out. We know this for a fact now. Now, you want to set up Aquaman next. You kind of shortchange the setup of Aquaman. You may want to do a Cyborg movie. You kind of shortchanged how the Cyborg movie would be. Now, the first thing is you got to get past Aquaman to get to the Cyborg movie, right? So why do you do that? Why did you try to kick the can down the road when that probably would have hurt you even more? It would have been better if you just did everything together, you made a whole set of money, and that would get people enthusiastic for. Because the one thing Zack Snyder always does right is he preps for the character in their standalone movie quite well. So in a way, what they did was shoot themselves in the foot, because Zack was trying to promote Aquaman for the Aquaman movie, and somehow it didn't completely come together. So, and James Wan had talked with Zack Snyder already, so it wasn't like James Wan didn't know what Zack was going to be doing, so it wouldn't have helped him. No, the thing would have been thread together pretty nicely, and James Wan and Zack Snyder, they already arranged their stuff. So why do you chop up the movie like that, Warner Brothers? You see, you shot yourself in the foot. So anyway, having said so, kicking the can down the road is not a good idea. I would suggest to Warner Brothers. Even if you're doing New Gods movies and all of that stuff, that's cool, but you should have probably just let everybody see the full picture of what Zack was doing, so they could be excited for a New Gods movie, so they could really be excited for an Aquaman movie, so they could really be excited for a Cyborg movie. Even though Cyborg was fine in Justice League, he could probably was going to be spectacular in Justice League when we see the finished cut. I saw some stuff that was deleted, which I was asking myself, not the one where he was taking flight, but where he was retrieving the mother box, and where he was, so many action scenes that were in the movie that were cut, and so many other explorations and adventures that were going on in that movie. And then just all that stuff with the New Gods stuff that is going to be even more fantastic, because Darkseid, if you listen to the sneak peek, Darkseid is like, no lanterns here, right? No Kryptonian. And, his voice is even more fantastic. And it is what it is. So anyway, moving on. So at the end of the day, okay, we didn't get the epic. Now we want it. And I truly believe, unless they tamper with James Wan's movie, Aquaman, I think that the Snyder Cut's actually going to be better suited for setting up Aquaman still to this day. Now, here's the thing. I don't know what the ending of the Justice League movie would be, even though I suspect it would be somewhat similar to the ending we got, because we saw some behind-the-scenes footage where Zack was shooting certain things with Henry Cavill and so on. But I don't know where it would have fit in the movie. But anyway, that's besides the point. Point is that when we have figures for Warner Brothers, it would help them and guide them much better than just talk. Now, it's amazing that Warner Brothers were listening to the bloggers, especially. Now, the critics, we had Rotten Tomatoes, which actually gives you some sort of quantitation about how many critics actually thought the movie was fresh. So you have some sort of quantitation there that Warner Bros. Can actually go to, so like Rotten Tomatoes and all the other critic review sites. But when it comes to bloggers and YouTube bloggers, I don't know if they quantitated anything. And so the only way we can actually give Warner Brothers evidence, qualitative and quantitative, is the way how we're approaching it now, which we should have approached before. And so by getting these signatures, by doing polls, by sending in snail mail, we're actually giving them a hands-on of qualitative and quantitative information which they need. And if they can have a rapport with us, the fans, which we are now volunteering, we're the ones to actually initiate that. We're moving towards them as fans, and we're trying to have a rapport with them and have a relationship with them. And I remember, I think it was Tommy Emmerich talking about putting out movies that would please all the DC fans. Well, if you want to please all the DC fans, what you can do is try and have a dialogue or a rapport with them. Now, I know that they have YouTube pages and they have websites with DC fans and DC this and DC that, and that's really awesome. But we're specifically talking about the fans of their films. So, and I think it's still, there's still probably a possibility of that, the fan base expanding in their films, and even in them, borrowing from the best of maybe the MCU or whatever. There is a possibility for that, but for them to do so, they have to understand that you have to listen to your fan base. Now, the question is, are we who are pushing for the Snyder Cut a significant part of that fan base? That's what we have to show and prove to Warner Brothers, that we are a significant part of their fan base, significant ardent supporters of their universe. And once we can do that, we will achieve success for whatever we want. Okay? So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. see what you guys are saying. All right, we got some other people here. All right, listen, I'm gonna just come out of this. I know it's kind of been late, guys. It's pretty late in the night. It's 11:46. It's almost 12 o'clock in the night. I have to go to my bed, as well as all of you guys do. So let me get to it with you guys here. It's nice to see all you guys. Mr. Cosmico, what's up, my brother? What's up, Mr. Cosmico? So what we have to do is sort of mobilize ourselves now that we kind of have an idea of what we need to do. It's basically our relationship with Warner Brothers and DC that we have to directly address those issues. Try to stay away from rumors. Try to move in factual information as much as possible, guys. That makes us more credible. Not in spite and anger and envy. Just drop figures on them. Drop facts on them. So that's what we need to approach Warner Bros. With from here on in, thanks to Fiona Zhang. And we should really continue to push the release the Snyder Cut movement. Shout out to you, Dave Ethan. I see you. See, great to hear, man. Release the Snyder Cut, and I still believe in the DCU. Have a good night, y'all. Have a good night, Dave Ethan. So this is what I wanted to say to you guys. W. Mir, Godfather, I don't know what to do. You can release the Snyder Cut. What's the matter with you? I like that, man. I like you, man, W. Mir. You and was it 90s something? You guys are a hoot, man. There's so many different personalities that support the DCEU, and I like that. And W. Mir, man, keep on being yourself. You know, shout out again to Leroy Kong, who I haven't seen for a while. Man, you're a great guy, inspiring, very positive individual, and we want to move in a positive direction. We can be honest and positive at the same time. Don't forget to get your letters in. Don't forget to get your letters in, guys. It's been nice to talk to you guys tonight. A lot of things are going on in my life personally, but this is always a nice moment to just speak with you guys. And I took a little while to share this with you guys, but I just can't come off of the Release the Snyder Cut movement. I think that's a pivotal movement, and I think it's very important. So that's why I'm spending my time. Also, guys, you can encourage and even speak to guys like Chris Swanson, Dave the Film Junkie, Film Gob, guys who have great followings on YouTube as well as Twitter. I'm trying to get people to. I'm sending mine on the 20th. I know I should send mine on the 21st, but I'm going to send mine on the 20th because I just don't want any setbacks. May have to send it. No, I'll send it once. I'll send my mail on the 20th and make sure it gets down there somehow, some way. I don't want it to get lost on the way in. I want Warner Bros. To get my input. I'll show a picture of me sending it in. But yes, it's been an awesome experience talking with you guys in this wonderful movement that we have, the Release the Snyder Cut movement, which is becoming much more positive. There's a lot of negativity still, but we're getting much more positive because we're doing something. I think when you do something, when you feel empowered, you don't stay bitter and negative for very long. And I think that's the good thing about it. I think we need to follow Fiona's example and be as positive as possible and very hopeful as possible about getting the Snyder Cut. Hopefully we can get it within between now and next year. We can get it. I'm hoping maybe even before Aquaman drops, but that's wishful thinking possibly. It depends on the numbers we show to Warner Brothers. If we should show anything close to 5 million of us, showing that is huge. Or anything near to that. We need some big numbers. We really do need some big numbers to really support us, or we need a poll that is a sample poll that's representative of what most DC fans, either on Twitter or Facebook or wherever, want. Now, I know when I go on, for instance, yes, the power of positivity, my friend. Positivity, can heal people, love and positivity really is transformative. So looking forward to that. Guys, at the same time, whatever is going on in your personal life, remember you have the power to choose to let it be powerful over you or to be subject to it. So remember, you have that power always to make the right decision and the right choice. Okay. Thank you, Dave Ethan. Stay positive, my friends. Shout out to you, my brother. Stay positive as well. I know you're a beacon to me. You really helped my life. Yes, I did, W. Mir. The Kids and the Camera podcast. It looked like an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, or is it 8 and 11, and then probably a 6-year-old we saw in that podcast, 3 kids. Really wonderful to see them talking about the thing, and talking about the Snyder Cut as well. And the children kind of get it. They kind of get it. You know what I'm saying? Children can get things. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was funny too. And I think that children, we can learn a lot from children. We must will it into existence. Yes, my friend. We must think positively, and collectively, nothing is impossible. And the power of positivity, the power of hopefulness, the power of productive thinking. I mean, I've seen so many positive things happen. So I hope that you guys will, keep with that. Keep me in prayer as well, in terms of just many different things that are going on in my personal life as well. And I'll keep you guys in prayer as well, okay, if you guys believe in God. So having said that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have a good night. Share this video with as many people as possible. We try and get as much happening in social media. Also, we'll try, as a collective, with Collective Voice, to try and get some influential people to participate in this poll. So I'm going to try and contact all the Snyder Cut people on YouTube, and you guys can give me a list of some of those Snyder Cut people in the comment section, and maybe even links to their videos, their channels, so I can talk with each and every one of them. And they don't have to be Snyder Cut people. Actually, they can be YouTube channels as well that have a lot of followers. So we can get this poll, we can get as much people as possible focusing on polls, as well as focusing on the petition. We want to get that petition going again. It's kind of a trickle, and we want to get that petition, much more people getting their attention drawn to the petition, so that we can get, bigger numbers. We want bigger numbers. I've seen GoFundMe's go much bigger than that, so I think it's possible. All right, guys. Twitter, by the way, has 330 million people on it. So if I can figure out a way to even advertise the poll or advertise something on Twitter, and it doesn't have to be me. There's another guy who has a poll on Twitter. Let me see if I can find I'll find his name later, and I'll put it in the comment section. Okay. All right, guys. I hope you guys have a great night. Peace to you guys. Deuces.